The eerie silence of the underground tunnels was broken only by the distant dripping of water echoing off the damp walls. Linda's father's breath was ragged, a mixture of fear and exhaustion. The search warrant clutched in his trembling hand had been his last resort. Now, he could only hope it wasn't too late. Detective Harris, with a flashlight in one hand and a map of the underground system in the other, led the team deeper into the labyrinthine passages. The air was thick with the scent of mildew and decay, and every step echoed ominously. Then, a chilling cry pierced the darkness. "Over here!" Officer Reynolds' voice was laced with urgency as he discovered Linda's lifeless body in a shadowed alcove. Her father's anguished cry echoed through the tunnels, a heart-shattering "No, Lillian, no" that seemed to shake the very foundations of the underground. The team stood in solemn silence, their flashlights illuminating the unspeakable tragedy. The weight of their loss hung heavy in the air, a suffocating grief that threatened to consume them all. Linda's father knelt beside her, his tears falling like rain as he whispered a desperate "Why?" As they carried Linda's lifeless body back to the surface, Linda's father remained kneeling by her side. The search ended in the most devastating way possible, and the underground tunnels, with their dark secrets and silent echoes. Lillian was pacing to and fro in the living room, still feeling uneasy, while her brother left to his room to ease himself. Suddenly, the front door creaked open. Lillian looked up, her heart skipping a beat as she saw Linda standing in the doorway, her face looking pale. "Linda!" Lillian exclaimed, jumping up and rushing to her twin sister. She enveloped her in a warm hug and asked, "Did you see Dad?" But Linda ignored the question. Lillian's eyes widened in horror as her twin sister smiled sinisterly. She had no idea that the demon had taken on her sister's form, and she felt a sense of unease as it drew closer. "Let's go to our room, Lillian," the demon said in a voice that was identical to her sister's. Lillian's heart raced as she followed the demon to their bedroom, feeling a sense of dread building up inside her. As soon as they entered the room, the demon slammed the door shut behind them, and Lillian heard the sound of her older brother knocking on the door, calling out to her. "Lillian, come out. I need to tell you something." The demon's grin grew wider as it began to transform into a grotesque parody of her sister. Lillian's eyes were fixed on the door, her heart pounding in her chest. "What's going on?" she whispered, her voice trembling. The demon's laughter was like a cold wind, sending chills down her spine. "Your brother has something to tell you, Lillian," it said, its voice dripping with malice. As the knocking on the door grew louder, Lillian's elder brother's voice boomed through the door, "Lillian, open up." Just then, the demon vanished, and the door suddenly flew open, causing her older brother to tumble to the ground. "It's about your sister." Lillian's eyes widened in shock as her older brother struggled to get up from the floor, her mind racing with questions. What was going on? Who was that thing that looked like her sister? And what did her brother want to tell her? As her brother gets back to his feet, he looked at her with a mixture of concern and fear. "Lillian, I've been trying to tell you something," he said, his voice shaking. "Something about your sister." Lillian's heart skipped a beat. "What about her?" she asked. Her brother hesitated, looking around the room nervously. She is dead," he said finally. "I think something's terrible happened to her." Lillian's mind reeled as she tried to process this information. Her sister is dead. What? How was that possible? Does that mean? Just then, a cold breeze swept through the room, making Lillian shiver. She felt a presence behind her and turned to see her sister standing in the doorway, a sinister grin spreading across her face. But something was off. Her sister's eyes seemed darker, her smile twisted. Lillian's brother asked her what was wrong, but she couldn't explain. Every time she tried to tell him about the demon, she felt a strange sensation, like a hand was clamped over her mouth. I don't know, she stuttered, feeling a creeping sense of dread. Her brother looked at her, concerned. What's going on, Lillian? You can tell me. But Lillian couldn't. The demon's presence was suffocating her, making it hard to breathe, hard to think. She tried to speak, but her words were garbled, nonsensical. Her brother's expression changed from concern to confusion. Lillian, what's wrong with you? He asked, shaking her gently. But Lillian was beyond reason. The demon's bewitching was too strong, too powerful. She was trapped in a living nightmare that she couldn't escape. Lillian's eyes stared blankly, her face empty. She was under the demon's spell and couldn't resist. Her brother shook her, trying to snap her out of it, but she didn't respond. Lillian, wake up, he shouted, his voice filled with fear. But Lillian was trapped in a realm of darkness and fear. The demon was too strong and had full control over her. She was now its puppet bound to its will. Her brother watched in horror as Lillian fell to the floor. The demon's sinister laughter filled the room.